Kathy Rutherford. And as you can see, we are recording. We do record each one of these meetings, and all of the prior ones are on our website. If you want to click on them, we have our own YouTube channel now that it takes you to watch the meetings. And we've had a lot of informative meetings in the past where you got to meet candidates and got to get information about really critically important things. So if you haven't been with us for a while, please check those out and watch them. That we consider that our primary job is to inform voters, because an informed voter is a voter that votes. And of course, it's going to be critically important that we get everyone to vote this election season. So I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. I first want to acknowledge that we are on the historic lands of indigenous tribes, including the Yavapai tribes, the Apache tribes, I think those are two of the main ones that were in our area, but I could definitely be missing some. And I want to thank all of the candidates and elected officials that are here today. I need to look through my list and see who that might be. The other people can pop up too. And we have Karen McClellan. She is currently serving on school board. And of course, our guest for today, whom will be introduced in just a bit. And those are the ones that I see right now. So thank you to everyone who is serving in office or running for office. It is such an amazing dedication of your time and your intent to make change in Arizona, which we all know is critically important for that to happen. I want to thank everyone who helped with the rally the other day. That was an amazing event that happened. The people I have in my head, but other people can pop in too. I know Toby Friedman was responsible for helping to organize that, as well as Kathy Kinsella, Ellen Ferreira. Ellen, who else was responsible?
Holly Plug.
Holly Plug.
And Peggy Chaikin.
And Peggy Chaikin. So it takes, of course, always work in the background to get those kind of events going on. And we have to let everyone know that we are so unhappy about what's happening in our country now, both at the federal level and at the state level. And that's why you're going to meet some candidates today for our state legislature. The goal is to flip that state legislature, because of course the state legislature that we have now has a Republican majority, unfortunately, and they pass all sorts of bad laws, including the one that was passed regarding what we used to call the permanent early vote list. And just to inform you about that, it's no longer called that. It is now called the Arizona early vote list. And starting at this point,
excuse me, Kathy, that's not correct. It's the active early voting list, not the Arizona.
Active. Oh, thank you. I knew that A stood for something. So the active early vote list, and the reason they call it active is because starting this election, if a person misses two elections in a row, two general elections in a row, they are bumped off that list at this point. So we don't have to worry about it this election cycle or even the next election cycle. And if we can flip our state legislature, we won't have to worry about it at all, because it'll get flipped. But you can always check to see if you are registered to vote by going on the Secretary of State's website. And there's a place that you can look there to make sure that you are registered to vote. If you have any problems with that, you can email me at info@democratsoftheredrocks.org or call the office, and we'll make sure that we get you the information about where you can check that. I don't have that link in my brain, but there is a link to it.
Kathy, this is Marianne again. Sorry, voting is my thing. The link is my.arizona.vote.
Can you put that in the chat, Marianne? That would be great.
Sure.
Okay.
And the specifics on the active early voting list is you're not removed from the registration, but you are removed from the mail voting list if you do not vote in 2 full cycles. By mail.
Oh, you have to vote by mail. So if you go in and you vote at an early vote center without your ballot, that won't count.
That will not count to keep you on the early voting list, I don't believe. So you can vote at the polls, but in order to stay on the early mail ballot, you have to vote a mail ballot
Okay,
once over the course of 2 general cycles. I know there's a lot of confusion on this. There's a
there's
lot
a
of
lot of
confusion.
confusion. So I'll check on that detail because that seems absolutely insane. If you lose your ballot and you go in and vote at a polling location or a vote location that you get, that counts as you not, not being able to be on that list. But we'll check for sure. You're probably right, Marianne. I don't know the law really well.
And
like
it's not quite in a, well, yes, that one is going to be in effect. Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I want to say our secretary, Frankie Reamer, was not able to be here today. She also does the film club. And if you haven't been attended the film club, it's really a wonderful event. It's on Zoom and they do a film each month that you can access. You can stream it from one place or the other. And the next film that they're going to be talking about is called The Silence of Others. And the film club will meet on Friday, June 5th at 5 o'clock. So you still have time to watch that movie. They had to move it this particular month. It's usually on the 3rd Friday. So this film is a documentary about the Spanish Civil War, and it's available on Netflix. Oh, that's nice. Then you don't have to pay anything for it if you have Netflix. Executively produced by Pedro Almodovar. The Silence of Others follows a lawsuit filed to address the oppression, torture, and murder of an estimated 100,000 people during Franco's 40-year dictatorship in Spain. In the background, the background is 1977 Spanish amnesty law known as the Pact of Forgetting, which prohibits legal actions for crimes committed during the country's civil war and has been a formidable obstacle to justice. So that sounds like a really incredibly interesting film that'll have a great discussion that goes along with it. So please join us for that. It's great. Great time to be with other fellow like-minded voters or people, and you get to meet some new people and talk about a really interesting film. Are there any other announcements before I turn it over to Ellen from the board or anyone else that would like to make an announcement? Okay, if you think of something during the meeting, I'll try to remember to ask that at the end, or you can just jump in. And I'm now going to turn it over to Ellen Ferreira. She is on our board and she is our program chair, and she puts together all these wonderful programs that we have. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you, and welcome everybody for that tuned in this morning. This is great, good showing. We thought there are so many issues that are hot topics right now, but front of our mind, of course, is the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade. We had a rally, as Kathy mentioned, on Saturday. We estimate there were 300 people there, and they were angry, pissed off people, as we all should be. This is just going to be a nightmare. And so this program for DORR was planned to be about candidates from other districts besides ours. You know, we're in Legislative District 1, Congressional District 2. And over the past few months, we have heard from just about every candidate, statewide candidate, and the candidates from our legislative district. But our district is not very close. It's not going to be eminently winnable. And so we wanted to present you today with a few candidates that are in districts that are considered flippable, and whatever work we can do to help them would be really very valuable. And we have our best chance of turning the legislature blue if we're there doing what we can for these candidates. Even though we can't vote for them, it's still important that we're there for them and share our support, writing postcards, not necessarily through DORR, but through the indivisible groups in town. And if you want to talk about joining one, please see me or Toby Friedman. But our first guest today is she's not running for the legislature, but she's very, very busy. She's as busy as if she was running for the legislature. Jodi has an amazing background, Jodi Liggett. She has done so many things in the state. And if you're here, you've seen the notice, the flyer for this event, and you've probably read about her bio. So I'm not going to repeat all of that. I'll just say that Jodi knows everybody in the state that has anything to do with democratic politics or women's issues. She has had lots of different wonderful and exciting jobs, but she has started her own business, which is a think tank on women's issues, and it's called the Arizona Center for Women's Advancement. She lives in Phoenix and has her BA and a law degree from ASU. She's a good friend of mine and always, always very informative. So Jodi, please welcome to the DORR breakfast. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Ellen, for inviting me, and everybody for having me. In my humble opinion, you're 100% on the right track here in your discussion and thinking strategically, not just about your own district, but about which districts are winnable here. I think that's so important for the future of our state, kind of across the board, but two really vital issues that we're all concerned about are tied to this need to take a chamber, to take the executive branch, hopefully both, but just get a foothold here where progressives have a seat at the table and can turn the tide on some of this horrible stuff. So voting rights and reproductive rights have just been in the crosshairs the last several sessions, the last 2 sessions for voting rights. And it's a little frightening because you have an entity, destroying what we have and destroying our ability to defend it or restore it at the same time. So I'll focus my comments for about 10 minutes on reproductive rights and justice. For those of you who don't hang out at the Capitol all the time, and best wishes to you because it's not a fun place, but you might not be familiar with the various groups. And I bring that up just to illustrate that, like many movements, the reproductive rights and justice movement is in a transition, like all other organizations or associations or groups, right? We've got a younger group of folks coming up, and people who are my age and look like me want to work to pass the baton. But transitions are always messy, and you're gonna see the evidence of that this session and in the aftermath, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I'm going to kind of do past, present, and future. Talk about a little bit of recent history, what the news is for this session, and then what's going on in the immediate future and what do we predict. So Arizona, I'm sure you all know, has just been Jon Stewart calls it the meth lab of democracy, which hurts my heart, but it's really like that. And in terms of the laboratory of the states, Arizona has been in the top tier of states restricting abortion. And we've had that dubious distinction for a long time. Last session, we had just really crazy legislation, right, that establishes a fertilized egg as a person with all rights and privileges of a walking, talking human being, right? We had other limitations on the procedure. One of the most important, Senate Bill 1457, which imposed really draconian restrictions on the National Council of Jewish Women, is challenging that in litigation. And That's one of the only tools that we have in Arizona is litigation to stop these terrible laws. Now that's been thrown into disarray with the draft Roe decision that was leaked. And I'll talk about that in a second. This session, like many others, you saw pretty determined efforts, not just to regulate abortion, but to push it to that state where it's regulated so much it's in effect banned. And something we should all remember when we talk about this issue, we tend to focus on metro areas where the clinics are, but we should all remember that for women in large parts, huge parts of the state, abortion is already inaccessible to them. So it might as well be banned. I mean, we would do well to remember that. All over northern Arizona on the reservations, in southeastern Arizona, it's just practically impossible. So there have been three main efforts this session to attack abortion. House Bill 2483 was a copycat bill of the Texas style abortion ban. The vigilante provision was in that one where your neighbor can, report you and get a $10,000 bounty for turning you in for getting an abortion or turning your doctor in. Just dreadful. We've killed that as far as anybody knows. Also 2811 would have completely prohibited abortion medication, meaning the abortion pill, the drug that over half of folks who seek an abortion before 16 weeks choose that method. And that's a really important method to preserve. So we were able to prevail on the American Medical Association, who has been a much better partner, I would say, over the last 2 years. It's hard for the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the Medical Association, right? They have tons of issues before the legislature. They're highly regulated professions. And so it's hard for them to step out on these really divisive, hot button, quote, social issues. But they've finally come to realize that, they're not going to be spared. These legislators are after young people, they're after women, they're after physicians. They don't care who you are. They want to burn it all down. This isn't a careful, surgical, philosophical effort, right, to protect the unborn. I think it is sincerely for maybe, 40% of that movement. The rest of the movement, the quote pro-life movement, does actually not care about the quality of life for babies or anyone else, but I know I'm preaching to the choir on that. The big effort this session, and this bill was already signed, was Senate Bill 1164, which is a 15-week ban. This is going to segue into what just happened with the Supreme Court and then all the rigmarole and confusion, I think, that's occurred after that. So 1164 bans abortion after 15 weeks. It made it all the way. Important to note that there are no exceptions for rape or incest. So the oft-cited horrible example is really true. An 11-year-old incest victim who was raped by her father and pregnant would not be able to get an abortion under this statute. Really, really shocking and really frightening. Undoubtedly, it will be litigated, but we've just got a whole different playing field now, and we don't know the contours of that because of this draft decision. The decision that was leaked is only a draft. So the final decision might look different. We don't think it's going to look very different at all. The big challenge in our movement, though, is to help the general public recognize that for the time being, abortion is still legal in Arizona. Our friends who run clinics are just astonished at the volume of phone calls they receive. Every time something like this is in the news, people think that abortion is already illegal in Arizona. So it's not. Any law that's been signed doesn't go into effect until 90 days after the end of session. So we're okay for now, but that's a really dreadful law. Now everyone wants to know, okay, if Roe's out, as it looks like it is going to be completely struck down, then what's the state of the law in Arizona? It's a good question, and I don't think anybody is completely like 100% nailed it sure. But what all of us are looking at are 3 very old statutes, pre-statehood statutes, passed, I think, 1901. One that makes it a crime for a physician or other to perform an abortion, a crime for an individual to seek or solicit an abortion, and then a marketing prohibition, which was a misdemeanor. Now, the criminal consequences for women, those seeking abortions, was repealed, oddly enough, last session in that bill 1457. So we don't have underlying statute in Arizona or constitution that criminalizes women, but absolutely still criminalizing doctors and, suppressing what can happen in Arizona at all. That would have a huge chilling effect. It's not clear that those statutes would come into being immediately on an official Roe decision. In fact, it's certain that they would not. They fall under a decision that happened in Arizona, unbelievably, like in 1973, a case out of Tucson, days before Roe was decided, an Arizona Superior Court declared abortion unconstitutional according to the state's constitution. Then the Roe decision came out days later. The court had to reconvene and they actually reversed their holding. Some people forget that. So at the very least, someone like an AG would have to petition the court to see that old statute comes into effect. And, you've got 1457 and then this most recent 15-week ban, 1164, that also somehow come into play. And it's very unclear which takes precedent. And then all of that gets really muddled just because of the number of restrictions we have on abortion. So those don't all just disappear. They would have to be attacked one by one. So I'm sorry, I wish I had better news. Continued attacks, these are not unexpected, but they're certainly unwelcome. And then this dreadful national development at the Supreme Court is, we knew it was coming, but it's not any easier to deal with that. Now, some people are attempting to deal with that in Arizona right this second. And I'm concerned about that. I think it's completely understandable, but there's been a group and they're funded by a couple individuals out of Tucson that have funded an initiative that would enshrine abortion rights, they say, in the Constitution. Couple of problems. There's like no time to get signatures right now. And it seems, I've seen the language, it seems really vague to me. I think a much better idea would be to hold this to 2024. Because the other thing is I'm not aware of any polling. So people do not understand or know what is going to happen when this is put in the field. Does this activate our opposition even more than it activates our base? I mean, that's a distinct possibility. So I'll cut it off right there. It's been a dreadful session. We passed a 15-week ban. It's unclear what will take precedence in an eventual Roe decision. And there's a ballot measure trying to make the ballot that I think is a bad idea. So those are my 5 conclusions. And I would take any questions. We could talk about anything. I know you have a full agenda though.
Emma has asked if there's any outreach to the pharmaceutical companies that produce the abortion pill to have them be an ally.
I'm aware of that at the national level a little bit. Their pharmaceutical companies are prickly. Same problem with the AMA, right? I mean, they have a lot of business before the FDA. So not on a local basis. And then it's important to understand in Arizona, and this has not been clear even in the news coverage. You know, the FDA did their thing with abortion medication and is allowing that to be mailed to patients. But there are states like Arizona with pre-existing laws that require an in-person appointment before an abortion pill can be dispensed to the patient. So that's, as much as that seems like a viable alternative, and I think, you know, it could be a viable, you know, outside the law alternative if people get that desperate. But that the medication abortion is something that has taken hold. It's not going away. So the advocates are looking at, yes, how do we protect and expand access to that medication in addition to the surgical options.
Any other questions? You can just unmute yourself and ask Jodi.
Yes, there's a Jewish women's organization that I saw an article on that are and this seems to be getting legs, as they say, that they can challenge anti-abortion laws based on the codification of abortion in the Jewish religion, which is, I'm stating really big ideas in a very short and simple way here. I mean, it seems to be complicated, but that abortion can, that anti-abortion groups and laws can be challenged based on religious grounds. Is there any hope in that area?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. One of my clients is the National Council of Jewish Women. They are the organization that is litigating last year's 1457. And this religious freedom or a religious exercise argument is something that was very seriously pursued. In fact, I'll share with you all, you have a fantastic advocate here in Phoenix. Her name is Sivia Tamarkin. She's made an incredible documentary about abortion rights, and she's also the tip of the spear in this effort. And really elevated that argument because it seems so novel, like none of us had heard that raised before, right? And so we were pushing pretty hard, and it is unfortunately not a viable argument. I mean, the consensus on that is universal. We talked to Lawrence Tribe, who wrote my constitutional law textbook. Like it is not clear cut enough burden on a religious exercise. So there's a couple of elements there that just don't make it a strong case. And you never want to bring a weak case because, you know, then you look weak when you lose. That's also why we're all pissed off about this ballot initiative, because it's going to make our movement look weak when it fails to make the ballot. But I understand people are really upset. They want to do something. I understand why people are trying to do that. So no on the legal argument, unfortunately, very unfortunately.
Thank you.
Jodi, what's the name of Sivia's documentary? Do you know?
Birthright, a war story.
Oh, that's right. We had Sivia on a previous DORR breakfast. She was excellent. And if you want to go back into our YouTube channel and look that one up, it was really, really good and still very relevant, even though it was probably a year and a half ago. She's terrific.
Yeah. And Birthright will be all over the state again. Sadly, we're going to be, but we have a good tool.
Okay, thanks. Jodi, I'm asking you a leading question. Who is the main sponsor of S1164?
Oh, good grief.
No, Nancy Bartow.
Of course, right, it's Nancy Bartow. She's always the one. Yeah, boy, is it important to get rid of her. And, you know, she's in a district. It's not completely impossible, you know. I hope we're all thinking like that.
Well, this is a good segue into our next speaker. Thank you, Jodi. This was great, very informative. And if we have questions or need updates, we may call on you again. You're a good source. Thank you.
You bet.
Laura Terrick is somebody that most of the people on this call are probably familiar with, because she has been a huge aid to DORR and Indivisible Sedona. Laura has been doing tutoring sessions for requests to speak for us Monday mornings, and so many people have been helped by those sessions that are run by Toby Friedman for DORR. And Laura has been there, and even though this could be recorded and easy to duplicate, she is there personally and has been every Monday for a long time. And so thank you, Laura, so much for being there. Laura is a former teacher. She has her degree in education and has been very active in Save Our Schools. And then she became very active in civic engagement beyond voting, which, if you don't know about that, civic engagement beyond voting is an outstanding resource for all of us in the progressive movement. They have happy hours every Sunday night at 4 o'clock that are wonderful, and they have legislators come on and speak. It's just a fabulous organization. They produce the IR report that we use to evaluate bills, to make our comments in the request to speak system. So civic engagement beyond voting, I highly recommend it. And Laura is a brave enough person and smart enough to know that she has a good chance of winning in LD4. And so that is a critical district. Laura is on, and Calvin Phillips also was on the call, and he is their district manager. Laura's running with a woman named Christine Marsh, who is in the state Senate now. And because of redistricting, she's going head to head with Nancy Bartow. Remember that name, because she is the evil one who sponsors horrible legislation, including the one that Jodi and I were just talking about, 1164, with the 15-week abortion ban. She needs to go. And Christine Marsh, who is running with Laura, is the one who can do that. And we want to help. So Laura, welcome to our call. Thank you for being here. Tell us about yourself and tell us about the district and anything you'd like to share with us.
All right, well, with pleasure. And Ellen, thank you so much for this invitation. I'm a big fan of DORR. I've seen many of you in person. We had our Civic Engagement Beyond Voting happy hour. That was fantastic. But it's nice to be here in the virtual space today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, about this race, and exactly how it's winnable, because it has statewide implications. So even though we are, LD4 is Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, a little bit of Phoenix, truly, we are one of the 5 flippable districts in Arizona. So it will take everyone to get this over the line, and I will touch on that. So I've been a Democrat all my life. I'm running for the House seat, Laura Tarek in LD4. But I didn't grow up that way. In fact, for my first presidential election, I was offered a brand new car if I would agree to vote for George W. Bush. And let me tell you, I needed a new car. I drove a gold 1982 El Camino with a bright purple hood that started without a key. And that car was stolen a couple of years later because I kept driving it. And they cracked the steering column and broken a window. And I thought, oh, you didn't have to do any of that. You could have just pulled the window and started it. Could have gotten away with the car. But even though I desperately needed that new car, I voted for Al Gore proudly and shared that information because integrity is worth more than a new car. And beyond that, Al Gore, I still remember his Columbine speech. I was in high school when that happened, and it was the very first time that I remember feeling like a politician was speaking to me and to the issues that I cared about as a young person. So I was not going to be moved off of that vote. So fast forward a few years later, I was attending graduate school in New York, and George W. Bush, unfortunately, comes back around in my story because he was reelected in 2004. And that was when I was in grad school. I was in New York. And I just felt like I wasn't doing enough, that there were things happening in the world and in the country that I needed to be more engaged and more involved in. So I left New York. I moved home to Arizona. I earned my master's degree in education from ASU. And I started teaching kindergarten and second grade in a Title I school district. But I had not been in the classroom for very long before I began to feel frustrated at the realities of what it's like to teach in Arizona. And so to really set this stage, there's one story that I tell over and over again because it's such a salient example of this is what we're dealing with in Arizona. So I was teaching, I had all my 36 kindergartners, which by the way, that is too many kids in a classroom, especially for kindergarten. So we can work on class size, but I had all my 36 kindergartners in front of me. And I hear this terrible noise and I look up and we have two of those big ceiling tiles. And I just had this thought, oh my gosh, those are coming down. And so I did in that moment what any teacher would do. And I jumped up and I shielded the kids so that those big ceiling tiles hit me and not them. And so the ceiling tiles hit my back and kind of, I was able to roll them off to the side. And then the metal frame that kept those tiles in place also came down. And thankfully I was able to reach out and catch that and it cut my hand. I had to go to the hospital and get a tetanus shot and everything. And I still feel the fear of that moment. You know, that was over a decade ago. And I just feel so grateful that I was able to do that. I am not a coordinated person. I famously can't even clap on rhythm, but it was just one of those moments that, again, I did what any teacher would do. But this is the state of education in Arizona, that we can't even keep our buildings up around our kids. And I apologize, my garbage is being picked up. So if you hear quite a loud rumbling, I hope it is not coming through. But so I was also in the classroom when the state stopped funding full day kindergarten. And I was horrified by this because kindergarten is so foundational to our children's success, their long-term success for education. So there was a lawmaker who came out after that and said, well, it doesn't really matter because kindergarten is just babysitting anyway. And I thought, oh, no, this can't stand. So I called that gentleman and I said, hey, I would really love for you to come to my classroom and just watch what we do and learn why this is so important and this is so foundational for kids' futures. Of course, I never heard back, but I thought, all right, if you're not going to come to my house and take care of my students, then I'm going to go to your house and change the laws. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I am running to be State House Representative in Legislative District 4. I'm out of the classroom now. I work full-time in the political space. So I divide my time between civic engagement beyond voting and another organization called All Voting is Local, where we work to remove discriminatory barriers to the ballot box. But it's my work with civic engagement beyond voting that has really given me a good glimpse into what it's like down at the legislature. And as part of that work, I help prepare people to testify before committee. So I meet with them, beforehand, and we go through kind of what they want to say. We're not doing talking points or anything like that. It's just, how can I help you tell your story in a way that's going to be most effective? So these are personal, gut-wrenching stories oftentimes that people are sharing. And I have to tell them, depending on the committee, okay, well, this committee chair might get up and walk out in the middle of your testimony. I know that you very carefully prepared a 2-minute speech. You may get cut down to a minute. You may get cut down to 30 seconds. I know you drove 3 hours to be here. You may not be able to testify at all because all testimony is sort of done at the whim of the committee chair. They may question you like you're a hostile witness on the stand. Be prepared to face, this line of attack and this line of attack. And these are everyday Arizonans who are just taking time out of their day to speak about issues that they care about. And I find that wholly unacceptable. It is simply not good governance. And we see that pervasive mentality in their lawmaking and through many of the bills that Jodi talked about. It is just so extreme. It is not representational of where Arizonans as a whole are. We see these anti-choice laws, these very restrictive abortion laws. We see varied attacks on voting, on the citizen initiative process, on our access to the ballot box. We see bills going through that will make teachers' jobs harder, that will punish teachers, that will threaten their license if they discuss controversial subjects, even though no one can seemingly define what that is. The Arizona legislature is just simply out of step with where the rest of our state is. But the good news is we did end up with those 5 flippable districts. Redistricting was a little bit of a tough process. We maybe wish that we had slightly different maps than we ended up with, but we still have those 5. So there is a path to a tie in the state house and a majority in the state senate. Now, the benefit of a tie in the state house is that in state legislature and local government, a tie is a fail. So that would force compromise. For the first time since 1966, Republicans have held control of the state house since 1966. That is simply too long for one party to be in control. No one party has a monopoly on good ideas. So this race, again, is very, very winnable. I am the single shot candidate in this race, which means that I am the only Democrat running on the House side. And that was a highly strategic decision that was made because that gives you a bump. And the reason for that is if you think about competitive districts are a third Republican, a third independent, a third Dem, but the Republicans always have the voter registration advantage in these flippable competitives. So they're starting here. If they get all their Republican votes, they start here. I get all the Democrat votes, I'm still behind. So when we talk to strong supporters and independents at the doors, we let them know, hey, do not add a single vote into that Republican vote total. Even though you can vote for 2 people, you're also totally allowed to vote for 1. We don't add anything in. We get more of those independents. It creeps me up so that I can get within striking distance. Generally gives the candidates about a 2 to 5% bump, which is right in the competitive range for this district. So the way that we do this is by direct voter contact, knocking doors. That is the bread and butter of LD4. We are out almost every single day knocking doors. I think Monday maybe is the only day that we're not out. And soon enough, that will be 7 days a week. The other thing is money. So campaigns take 3 things: time, treasure, and talent. You know, volunteer any of the above if you can make it. I know many of you are remote there in Sedona, or all of you. So in this case, it would probably be treasure. And for that, I just want to give an example about Christine's race, and I'll turn it over to Calvin in just a minute to talk more about her race with Nancy Bartow and more information about how competitive we are. But she ran in 2018 and lost by 267 votes. She ran again in 2020 and won by 497. And I love this example because when people tell me, oh, my vote doesn't matter, I say, oh, yes, it does. Let me talk to you about the margins of this race. This came down to a couple of dozen votes per precinct. I mean, that is amazing. But it took over $500,000 to do that in 2020. So races are very expensive, but we use that money very, very well. We use it to execute that direct voter contact. So mailers, digital ads, signs, paying our staff so that we can get out to the doors more. Those are all the things that really help us win and that make this a truly, truly competitive district. So where if you are able to support today, able to offer support today, $25, $50, $1,000, you know, whatever makes sense for you, whatever feels good for you will go a long way for us. And what I say about this is I know that we all want to wake up on November 9th and feel like we did absolutely everything we could to make change in this state. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. I don't know if there's time for questions or if we're moving on. Otherwise, I will kick it right over to Calvin.
Thank you everyone for having us today. I'm Calvin. I'm the district manager for both Laura and Christine Marsh, who is the state Senate candidate in LD4 running against Nancy Bartow, the architect of nearly every attack on reproductive rights in the state of Arizona for decades at this point. Christine is the 2016 Arizona Teacher of the Year. And she has already passed in her first term in the state Senate life-saving legislation handling our state's fentanyl crisis. She lost her first election in 2018 by 267 votes out of over 90,000, and came right back in 2020, got right back on the horse, ran again, and despite facing severe personal tragedy, despite a global pandemic which sent campaigns spiraling, she ended up winning that race by 497 votes out of over 100,000. So this is a district where we are used to close elections. We are used to these kinds of challenges. We are used to tough fights, and we are ready to get Nancy Bartow out of office and to elect Laura to the House as well. Jacob, with our campaign, is going to drop the Act Blue link for Laura again in the chat. He put it a little further up, but I'll put the link for Christine as well if you're able to contribute to the campaigns. I'm also going to put a mobilize link for both candidates. So when we do phone banks, those will show up if you want to stop by one of those and see what the grassroots is like in LD4. You can see that as well. We would love to have all of you on. And thank you so much for being involved this cycle and being involved, period.
Thanks, Calvin. Tell us, where is the district exactly?
So LD4 is a lot of Scottsdale, the town of Paradise Valley, and some of North Phoenix and Arcadia. So it's kind of the Northeast Valley. Oh, thank you, Jacob. So it's kind of the Northeast Valley area in Maricopa County.
So one of the things we can do to help is if we have friends that live in that district, LD4, talk to them, make it very well known, retweet or share Facebook posts. Laura is on Facebook a lot, and I always repost it on After the March Verde Valley sites. So yeah, we can help with money. We can help. They can give us assignments if we want them. Whatever we can do to help, because getting rid of Nancy Bartow would be huge. And also, I mean, we're not sure who your opponent will ultimately be, Laura, correct? But it's most likely the incumbent, who is Justin Wilmoth, who is.
Oh, no, he got
No?
redistricted out into LD2. Yeah, we have a 6-way primary.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Way
Yeah,
Republican
right.
primary for an open seat, which is so exciting because it's a good chance for them to try to outflank each other, good chance for them to use their resources on talking to people who come November are going to vote for them anyway, and a good chance for us to tell Laura's story with the voters and show that we really are united behind her.
Great. Thank you. So again, this is LD4. Christine Marsh is running for the Senate seat, and Laura is running for the House seat, single shot. Great. Thank you both so much for being with us. We appreciate it. We will do whatever we can to turn this legislature blue. And if it means going outside of our district, then that's what we'll do. We have another outstanding candidate with us this morning. And thank you both, Laura and Calvin, for being here. Cindy Hans. Cindy is one of us. She has been a teacher. She's been a principal. Education has been her thing for her career. Then she retired and jumped right in. Retirement meant the same thing to her as it does for us, which is really nothing. It's just a career change. She jumped right in with the League of Women Voters and became very, very active in voter registration and many other issues. And so she's another activist who is putting it all on the line to run against a very, very conservative person, J.D. Mesnard. And he's one of the worst, according to Civic Engagement Beyond Voting. And so we're so thrilled that you're able to join us today, Cindy. And again, another campaign that if we can help get Cindy elected, this would be awesome. So Cindy, thanks for being here.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. So I will be running, or I am running, in Legislative District 13, which is roughly Chandler east of the 101 and a sliver of Gilbert. You know that my experiences in public education and elections, those are the two big hot points in Arizona. I have been endorsed by the Save Our Schools. So the summary you just heard is pretty much everything I've done. My work in politics has been all bipartisan. A lot of work with Save Our Schools. Public education is for everybody. A lot of work with Stop Dark Money, Outlaw Dirty Money campaigns. Again, everybody's affected by that. I also volunteer with Planned Parenthood, so I'm on the front lines of this horrific Roe v. Wade mess. So one of the messages that I try and get out to my voters is you deserve privacy in your healthcare. Men deserve it, women deserve it, from your toenails that need trimming up to the brain surgery and all of that stuff in between. I've got a doctor. My doctors have all kinds of specialists giving them data about me, about my blood, about ultrasounds, whatever's going on. Those decisions of mine really belong between me and my doctor. That's it. That's it. If I want to ask friends, I can. If I want spiritual counsel, I can get it. I don't need a politician in that room making those decisions with me or restricting my decisions. So I'm, again, preaching to the choir. One of the things I would like to do as a legislator, in addition to increasing public school funding, is bringing some transparency to charter schools. I don't think charter schools are going away. I'm not going to engage in a battle that to me is a losing one right off the bat. But why don't we know where those tax dollars are being spent in a charter school? We know how much the local school is spending on books, on chairs, on electricity, on salaries. We know nothing about the charter schools. So without accountability, without transparency, just like Stop Dark Money, without that transparency, corruption is bred. It's a breeding ground for corruption, and the kids are losing in the case of charter schools. My work in voting has convinced me that our system, and I've only worked in Maricopa County, it's very secure. The election was true, the results were true, and that's all there is to it. So those are the main things that I'm looking at. JD Mesnard, bless his little heart, he is so opposite of me, it is not funny. So he voted to prohibit irreversible gender assignment surgery for minors. I don't even know if anybody does that kind of surgery on minors. He voted to prohibit transgender girls from playing on female sports team. He co-sponsored the restrictions on abortions and opposed the idea that there are certain contraceptives that could have been available without a prescription and you would just have to go talk to your pharmacist about it. Nope, he's not going to do that. He co-sponsored a bill for more transparency for public schools, but not for private. I find it darkly amusing that people are talking about we should have cameras in schools, in classrooms. Well, these teachers taught for 18 months on camera. Where were you? Because that camera was sending a feed into a computer that it was sitting in your home for 18 months. I actually was part of that, not on one side of the camera, but my granddaughter started kindergarten online and I was her online learning partner, and those teachers were just extraordinary. He voted to prohibit teaching CRT. If there is any solution looking for a problem, it is CRT in schools, in public schools. Come on. If you know what it is, you know that it is a law school issue. So he voted for security features on ballots. He wants to limit the distribution of mail-in ballots. He is not a friend for democracy. He is not a friend for the future of Arizona. I actually happen to believe that when you fund public schools, you're funding economic sustainability in the state. I cannot imagine any large corporation wanting to invest and build in Arizona with the state of the public schools. It is an issue. It is a crisis. We've got the money. Arizona has the money. We need to start investing. I remind people when I knock on doors that, the value of your home is directly tied to the public schools. So strong public schools mean that the value of your home is better. It is just better for the economy. I have 3 children. They were all went through the public schools in Scottsdale where Christine Marsh taught. That's where I spent most of my career in Scottsdale. Public schools, and they were well prepared, but I worry about how well prepared my grandkids are going to be in the public schools. I don't think they're going to be any better prepared in the charter schools by any stretch, but that's not acceptable. The state is better than that. We deserve better. The kids deserve better. The teachers deserve better. The neighbors of those school kids, we all deserve better. So I don't have children in my home right now, but I live across the street from an elementary school. I see them in the parks. I see them in my dentist's office. I see them in the grocery stores. We are a community and we have to invest in that. And the bedrock of a safe community, economic sustainability, is a strong public school system. I do want to say that JD Mesnar did, if this is important to you, he did vote to allow restaurants to sell to-go cocktails during the pandemic. So you can thank him for that. So I don't want to say he's all evil, but I'll just stop there. I appreciate everything that Laura said about we need your support. We need your support. If you have friends in Chandler, I will post my contact information on my website in the chat when I'm done. And any questions?
You can just unmute yourself if you've got questions. The district, the vote spread in your district, according to the information I have, is 1.2%. In other words, the Republicans only have a 1.2% or 1.6% advantage.
Right. So there are a couple things. Yeah, so we know that what will change the seat in the Senate and get JD Mesnard out is the votes of the independents. So one of our messages as we've been going out knocking on doors, again, nearly every day, is that if you are registered and independent, you can vote in the primary. It is one of the biggest confusing things in Arizona. People don't believe that as an independent or other that they can vote in the primary. They can, all they have to do is choose their ballot. They can, in Maricopa County at least, and I assume it's the same, up there is you can go online and request your ballot, whether you want the Democrat or Republican ballot. You can walk into a vote center, go through the check-in process with your ID. Literally on the screen, you just touch which ballot you want, and that's the one you get. I've worked every election since 2017, and I will tell you, one of my shocks was that people would get their primary ballot, and it happened with everybody. They would get their primary ballot and they would say, well, where are the other people? And I go, what other people are you talking about? And they're like, well, the other side. I'm like, well, you get to vote the other side in November, but this is just one party. It's the intra-party decisions. So people do need, the education is huge on not just educating voters on your choices for candidates, but educating voters on how you vote, who can vote, when you have to register to vote, why you didn't get your mail-in ballot. And I always would ask, did you move? Yes. Did you tell Maricopa County? Yes. So we're ironing out, Arizona's ironing out some of those issues. So now it's easier when you change your address at the license branch for that change of address to be carried over to your elections or to your voting registration. But everybody needs to go online and check that out at least 6 weeks in advance. Check your voter registration status. Make sure you're getting your mail-in ballot. Make sure you are getting your make sure that it's coming to the right address, because they will not be forwarded. They just will not be. Somebody asked in the chat, what's been the impact of COVID and remote learning on public schools versus private? So a lot of the private schools around my area opened a lot earlier than the public schools. I am, you might guess, a fan of masking. I've gotten my second booster shot and I react to those shots. So that was a thing. I assume that the people who attend private schools are suffering just as much as the kids in the public school. Teachers are getting sick. The online, it does hurt kids. My granddaughter's very social and she did not like being in a class of one on a computer. Once she got to go back to school, her entire personality came back. So I understand all that. But I want that personality back for the rest, for, decades and decades. I don't want that cut short or restricted because she gets COVID. So these are literally, for me, they're life and death decisions. Any other questions?
I don't see any. So thank you, Cindy, so much for being with us today. We appreciate your being here. We
Thank
wish
you
you
for
the best of luck. If there's anything we can do to help, her information will be there in the chat. And I just want everyone to be aware of how important and winnable this race is. Mark Kelly won this district by 52%. Joe Biden won this district. So this is doable. We can flip this district. We just have to put some elbow grease behind it. All right.
I just wanted to say that one of the common questions I get is, why am I running? I have to tell you, I was asked to run. And the thought of JD not having a good fight just destroyed me. And I was like, okay, if it has to be me, then it does. So anybody can do this. I mean, it really is a commitment to the future. And it's, I kept thinking, looking at that ballot with no good, strong candidate across from him, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I don't believe in living with regrets. I have very, very few regrets in my life. And it's because I look at things like that. So if you've ever thought about running locally or on a larger scale, please seriously consider it. So I'm going to be quiet, turn off my mic, and I will put some information in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad you brought that up. That was great, Cindy. Thank you so much, because it is actually a perfect segue for Kyle Nieschke, who is Kyle is running in LD7. Now, a big part of LD7 used to be LD6, which was our district. Kyle jumped into the race and nobody else was willing, I don't know, or able or there or brave enough to run against Wendy Rogers. And my understanding is there is no Democrat running for the House in that district, LD7. There is no Democratic candidate running in that district. Kyle is running for the state Senate. And we all are so grateful that you're doing that. We have a long history with Wendy Rogers, and it's not good. And she's done nothing but embarrass and humiliate herself and the human race by the way she's acted over the past 2 years. So Kyle, thank you for doing what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about how you made your decision to run and how things have been going.
Yeah, Ellen, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and for the invitation to be here with you all today. I'm just like Ellen said, I got into the race and Heitland gave me a phone call. And I originally really didn't want to do it. I was like, okay, I'll do some recruitment. We'll go find a nice professor on NAU's campus to run, or a graduate student. And we were having issues. So, and then we were going to not run someone. And then it was the weekend that Wendy Rogers was getting censured. And very similar, like what Cindy was saying, I just wouldn't be comfortable with there not being a candidate on the ballot against Wendy Rogers. I've been doing voter registration on the college campus for the last 6 or 7 years. It's kind of what I've dedicated my adult life to. I did grow up in conservative Gilbert, Arizona, but I've lived up in Flagstaff for the last several years. And for the last couple of years, I've worked with the Arizona Students Association as their organizing director. We've registered thousands of students across the state. And that is kind of part of the game plan for this Legislative District 7 campaign. I'm running as a clean elections candidate. So thanks to some of you and a lot of really wonderful folks with the Coconino Democrats, I've actually received all of my, and the Pinal County Democrats and the Navajo County Democrats. The Democrats, I just want to say, have really showed up for me all throughout the district over this last month. And I want to thank all of you. But so I just filed last Monday my clean elections contributions. So I'm going to get $17,000 for the primary to spend and $25,000 for the general election. I have a few goals throughout this campaign. One is to increase voter registration and turnout in the district. 2 is to get our statewide candidates elected to office because of really high turnout in our district. And 3 is to help kind of build the bench in LD7. So I'm really lucky to have been able to hire a wonderful campaign manager, Haley Creighton. She just graduated from Northern Arizona University. And a lot of time our graduates from NAU really have difficulty getting jobs in Flagstaff after they graduate. So I think it was awesome that we're going to be able to use a lot of this clean elections money to keep Haley in Flagstaff, working registering voters and learning new skills and becoming a campaign manager. When I graduated from NAU in 2019, Eva Putzova kind of took me under her wing, and I had the opportunity to work on her campaign for 6 or 7 months and really build a lot of skills and just do a lot of really wonderful work. And it's kind of kept me involved and engaged. So part of the goal as well throughout this campaign is to find some candidates for 2024 to run for State House and for State Senate. It's a long shot this year as far as winning the race, but this is a winnable district. We have really far right crazy extremists representing Republicans, and we've got a lot of independents and a lot of people who do not vote in this district. So that is kind of the goal of this campaign, is I want to reach out to those, mostly those folks who have not voted in the last few campaigns. I want to register new voters, and we're really lucky. Well, not lucky. I mean, the independent redistricting was really awful for Flagstaff, really diluting our voting power. But the way the district was split is that a lot of the NAU students are really in my district. So really over the summer here, while my NAU students aren't here, I want to visit every single city. The district is very, very large, so I'm stretching all the way from Flagstaff all the way down south to Globe, getting to Payson, Pine Top, and just north of you all, Oak Creek. And so that is one of my asks for you all today. Door knocking is very difficult throughout the district, particularly in Oak Creek. If anyone knows anyone who lives there, I would love to do a house party and meet some folks in Oak Creek sometime this summer. So that is one of my asks for you all. I don't need any money or fundraising. I'm a clean elections candidate, all supported by the state, but that was one ask for you all. Please, please reach out if you know anyone in Oak Creek. And then over the fall, I'm going to spend most days or a lot of days on the college campus, registering students to vote and making sure they're voting locally and engaged and really know what is going on. Let's see, just updates on the campaign. We made the ballot. We filed for clean elections money. I just put in a print order for the Union Print Shop down in Phoenix to get all our literature done. So I'm really getting ready to start really running the volunteer side of the campaign in these next couple of weeks. We'll be doing a lot of phone calls for volunteers, and we'll be doing lots of door knocking to register new voters and make sure people are aware of the primary. I also wanted to talk about how reproductive rights has impacted my campaign and kind of the fight for that over this last month. My original kind of idea going into this campaign on reproductive rights and on guns was to just really not talk about it and only talk about it when I get asked about it. And I was in the Coconino Democrats meeting near the end of March. I think we were still getting signatures. It was like my first presentation to them. It was my first presentation in front of folks. I was very nervous. And I got asked the question about reproductive rights, and I said, you know, I'm pro-abortion. Abortion is a good thing. I was kind of very nervous and flustered about it. And I got some comments at the end of the meeting that I should not be using pro-abortion. You know, pro-choice is the right thing to use. And it's something I really thought about internally. But then I talked to some young folks as well, and Katie Cottrell and Emma and folks I've organized with in Flagstaff around some of these issues. And then we saw the Roe v. Wade decision a couple of weeks later. And we know that we cannot shy away from abortion. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is a human right. And we need to take away the shame and stigma that comes with it. And so I'm now putting reproductive rights for all on my campaign literature. It's proudly on my website, and something that we'll be talking about throughout the campaign as much as possible. No one wants to hear a white man talk about reproductive rights. But it's going to be an issue that we talk about on the campaign, and particularly, well, all over the district, not just on the college campus. And I think, oh, the other thing is some more asks. Send money to Laura and to Cindy, and to your local party, and also to statewide organizations that are organizing year round, like Rural Arizona, like Arizona Students Association, Lucha, Supporting these organizations is going to help us statewide and help us with voter turnout and registration and all these wonderful, lovely things. And then my other ask is Oak Creek. Someone please. And that's all I got. I would love to answer any questions or anything.
Any questions? You can just unmute yourself.
Hi,
Kyle.
this is
I'm
Ruth.
so impressed. Go on.
Kyle, hi, this is Ruth. Could you clarify, when you say Oak Creek, I'm not very familiar with the changes in the districts. Are you talking about the village of Oak Creek or Oak Creek Canyon?
I'm talking about, I think, Village of Oak Creek, the 89A north of, is that not Village of Oak Creek?
No, you're talking about the canyon.
I'm talking about the, okay. Very embarrassing.
No, is it the canyon?
It is the canyon, yeah.
Okay, because I know it's not the
They are in
village because
LD.
that's not in the district.
Yeah,
So
they are in LD7, yeah.
So my follow-up question to that would be, and you probably don't know this yet, but does anyone know how many of the residents there are full-time and can vote in that district versus being part-time?
There are a lot of full-time residents there.
Okay, all right, good to know.
Well,
Thank-
and that's an issue with a lot of other parts of my district as well. We're down in Gold Canyon. There's a lot of retirement communities, and it's like, can I even go visit these districts over the summer? A lot of these folks can't vote there, but I'm going to make it a point to visit every single city, and we'll register some new voters, and we'll have a few misses. But if we anyway.
I have 3 contacts for you in Oak Creek Canyon, if you really want to go there.
Yeah, I have one too. I'll contact her.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll get them to you somehow.
Yeah, I think Kyle's information is in the chat, so how to
Oh,
contact.
sorry. Let me throw all my info in the chat.
I think these are the reasons that you're running are terrific. Same thing with Cindy. And the fact that you are there and the fact that you're young and that you're bringing more young people into politics and working on the bench so that maybe it won't happen in 2022, but maybe in 2024. And you never know. I mean, it could be that Wendy Rogers literally does self-destruct between now and the election and things could turn around. You just never know. So I think it's fabulous that you're running. I wish you had somebody running for the House in that district as well, but this is awesome. And we thank you for being here. It's just exciting for us to learn about you and hear what's going on.
Well, thank you so much. I also want to say that the whole idea of the clean slate comes from your district. And I've heard, I think they still need a few more individual donations to hit their max for a couple of those folks. I'm not 100% sure, but you can reach out to Jay Ruby if you've got a little check for him, help him hit
Right.
that max.
And have you reached your max yet?
I have.
That's great, because we know the size of the war chest that Wendy Rogers is developing from people not in this district, not in this state, but across the whole country. These wackadoodles from everywhere just love what she's doing and what she's saying and her hateful rhetoric, and are willing to throw lots and lots of money at her. I sound a little biased. All right, Kyle, thank you for being here. Kathy, I'm going to turn the program back to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Kyle and Cindy and Laura. The fact that you're all running gives us hope, which we can use as much hope as possible, because that's the energy that we put in our energy tanks to keep us going. You know, we need that hope, and we know how important it is to flip the House, and how important it is to bring new voters onto our into the process, to how important it is to get people active. Having someone on the ballot to vote for that has a D behind their name is critical. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We have a couple of announcements. A couple people asked to jump on for a second. Stephen, I'll start with you. Stephen Hanks has an announcement about a fun event that Democrats of the Red Rocks is going to do.
Thank you very much, Madam President. If there are any golfers in the house, or you have friends who are golfers, DORR is going to be sponsoring a fundraising event The date is July 9th, starting at 8:30 at the Canyon Mesa Country Club, which is a 9-hole golf course in the village of Oak Creek. There is also going to be a lunch attached to that at the end of the golfing. We have the ability to have a maximum of 40 golfers. 36 would give us a foursome on every one of the 9 holes, but we're able to go over that by 4. And the cost, the fee to enter is $90, and that will allow us to retain half of that amount for DORR programs for the rest of the campaign season. So again, if anyone here golfs, you don't have to be an expert. We're going to do it in a way that allows even amateurs to get involved, because it's going to be based on the furthest ball to the hole. So we won't have people out there taking 15 shots on the green. So it shouldn't be any longer than a couple of hour event. So we hope you get the word out to your friends who are golfers, and hope some of you sign up. The information about registering will be sent out pretty soon, and you'll get all that information.
And did you say the time it starts, Stephen? I don't know if I missed
We
that.
should be doing the tee off at 8:30. So anyone who participates should probably get there at 8 o'clock to sign in, and we can get everybody situated.
And so it'll be cool enough to come out and do that, which would.
And we're planning on trying to get some fabulous prizes for the winners. Kathy, don't get nervous. It won't be an expense to DORR.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you for doing that. Sounds like a wonderful event, and it will come out over the email blast if you're on that. If you aren't on that and you want to tell people about it, you know, that they can come up and spend some time in Sedona, even if they don't live here, and do that wonderful golf outing. And the information will also be on our website,
Right,
where all of our events are. So thank you
And
so much
social
for
media.
organizing that. Yeah. Thanks, Stephen.
okay.
And Karen McClellan would like to make an announcement. As I said at the very beginning of the meeting, information, I didn't say it this way, but information is power, right? Information is critically important to get that out to all of our voters. And if you have not, or do not listen to Democratic Perspectives on the radio every Monday, it's a great way to get information. So Karen will give us a little bit more about the time of that. And then there is a fundraising event she's going to tell us about. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, so please want you all to join us tomorrow night at El Portal out in the courtyard from 5 to 7. It's a fundraiser for the Democratic Perspectives radio show. As you know, we've been on the air now for 11 years. And we're like public TV coming to you. We're really desperate for funding. As a lot of you remember, Klaus von Studerheim and Dick Searle, who both passed away last year, were big supporters monetarily of the radio show. So they were 2 of our biggest donors to the radio show. DORR gives us money every month, so does the county party, for which we are so grateful. But we really need additional funds to continue the radio show. It's not cheap getting that airtime from Chasm. So you can come out and join us for some wine and some fun tomorrow night from 5 to 7, or you can go onto the Verde Valley Independent Democrats website. You can also access that to the Facebook page and make an online donation. We'd really love to have some people who want to make us like a recurring monthly donations would be great. So please do come out and join us. We really need the funds to keep the radio show on the air. And I have one other announcement. Anybody out there who's circulating petitions for anything, any of those petitions, I will be in the DORR office from at least 11 to 1 every Thursday and Saturday, except June 4th, from now through June 18th, to notarize petitions. That June 18th is sort of the last day we want to collect them for the outlawed dirty money. The deadline for turning them in for the voting rights ones is a little bit earlier, but I'm here to sign those. So if you've got petitions out there, even if they only have 2 or 3 signatures, please bring them in. Let's get them notarized. Every signature helps for those, because we all know that both of those petitions, the one about medical debt, the one the Student Association, all of those are going to be challenged by Republicans. They're going to be looking at every signature and doing everything they can to keep those off the ballot. Now, they had such great luck with Prop 208 and the flat tax initiative. They all think they can throw everything off the ballot. So we really need every single signature. So if you know anybody who hasn't signed those, the petitions are in the DORR office. You can come in and sign them. And if you're set, please bring them back. And I am here that Thursdays and Saturdays, at least 11 to 1. On some of those Saturdays, I'll be here later. If you need to come in later, let me know. If you've got some and you can't come in at that time, let me know and I will meet you somewhere to get them signed. So that's really important. So hopefully we see all of you tomorrow night. And if you come tomorrow night, you can also have the benefit of signing my petition for a re-election to the school board, because I am running again for another term on the school board. And I'm about halfway through the signatures I need. So I've got till the end of June to collect them. So, please come in and see me. And we will, for the first time in 8 years, it looks like we're going to have a contested election for the school board in Sedona, which is quite a change from past years. We'll have to see if everybody turns their petitions in, but there are at the moment 4 people collecting signatures for 2 seats on the school board. So thank you for letting me say a few words, and great program, by the way, Ellen.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fabulous. Thanks.
I have a quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a quick question for Karen. Karen, shall I bring the other petitions that are going around tomorrow night?
Is that Kat?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please do. There may be somebody there from the fair elections. I've been talking to them. I'm not certain, but bring any petitions you've got tomorrow. We'll get them signed up too. Yeah, I think hopefully most of the people who show up will already have signed them, but you never know. There's always at least 1 or 2 in the crowd that have missed it somehow. So.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Oh, Kat,
Kathy?
show up if you can a bit early and we'll get organized.
I will.
Yeah, thanks.
Kathy, this
Okay, you
is
said it's
Mary Ann. Could
Go
I
ahead,
say
Mary Ann.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Go
it's
ahead,
5
Mary Ann.
to 7
They
tomorrow?
can work that out
5 to
off.
7. 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the courtyard at El Portal.
Got it,
Could I
thanks.
make a nonpartisan announcement about elections?
Sure.
The League of Women Voters is running a about education. League of Women Voters is running a voter ed program next Wednesday, the 25th of May, from 2 to 3:30. And we have both of the local superintendents of schools speaking on successes and challenges in public education in the Verde Valley. We've got Dennis Dearden, he's the superintendent of Sedona Oak Creek. And we've got Steve King, the superintendent of Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. We're actually having it in person. It's from 2 to 3:30 at the Yavapai College Sedona Center. And I think if you're interested in hearing more about education in our local area, it could be pretty interesting. And there's more details on our website, LWVNAZ.
Thank you so much, Marianne. That sounds like a great program. Yeah, I highly encourage people to go. So we've heard a lot of people today. They're putting a lot of effort into flipping our state blue. And I know that it is all near and dear to all of our hearts, and as well as reproductive rights. And so if you want to volunteer, we do need help. And so you can email me at info@democratsoftheredrocks, 2 S's on that, .org, and I can get you connected with our new organizer, Lama. She has put a couple of things in the chat. We are having a canvas this Sunday. That's what time is it, Lama, the canvas?
It's at 4 p.m. and we'll be canvassing in West Sedona.
4 p.m. in West Sedona. And if you have never phone banked, I know it's a little weird to call somebody on the phone that you do not know, but you get better at it, just like anything. Yeah, I did a ton of it during 2020 because that was really our entire voter contact outreach in 2020 due to the pandemic. It does get easier as you do it. It's not really that bad, and you can hang up anytime you want if you get somebody that's not nice on the phone. So that's a great way to support those legislative districts that need our help. The way I look at it, you don't get a lot of people on the phone. You do a lot of dialing, you don't get a lot of people, but anybody that you talk to and you get answers to the survey questions, for instance, are you going to vote for Laura, for instance, then that door does not have to be knocked. it really helps the campaigns. So if you can't do anything else, helping out with phone banks is a great thing to do. And I highly encourage you to get involved with those campaigns. If we flip the state legislature, we will have we will be in a totally different ballpark, playing a totally different game, because that is so critically important. So is there anything else for the good of the order before I let y'all go to your Thursday? Thank you so much for being here, Ellen. Excellent program, as Karen said, and I hope you all have just an absolutely wonderful day. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.